today we're going to discover the wonderful world of creepy crawly animals. So in the animal kingdom, there's plenty of animals that kind of get a bad rap. And that could be just stories that have been passed down through time. Maybe they have too many legs or not enough legs, and we just don't have the best fuzzy feelings when we see these animals. Sometimes we think that if one of these animals passes by us, that it might be bringing bad luck with it. All of these theories, ideas, and kind of myths are out there about these animals. But on our tour today, we're going to walk around the zoo because it's really important to us to represent these animals in the positive light that they actually are here for. So a lot of these animals are really, really important. So we're gonna walk around today and explore what makes these animals not as creepy crawly as we might think. So one of the animals that people think are kind of gross are these guys, our cockroach friends. And these in particular are Madagascar hissing cockroaches. So they happen to be one of the largest cockroach species, but interestingly enough, when we find them, we usually tend to see them in like dirty areas. And so therefore we don't have great feelings about them because we think that they're really gross, dirty creatures. But cockroaches and other invertebrates are actually decomposers. So the reason that we're finding them in those kind of dirty looking areas is because they're there to clean up the environment. So these guys are super important out in the wild in Madagascar or wherever they might be found because they can break down any of that dead and decaying material. So that could be old leaves from the trees. That could even be an animal that might pass away. So that's what keeps the forest floor so clean are invertebrates and insects just like our cockroach friends here. So we might not think they're the cutest. We might think they're a little kind of creepy because of the way that they crawl with their legs and everything. But like I said, they're really, really important. So we want to make sure that we are just as nice to our creepy crawlies as we would be to any of our other animals.
Let's check out some other invertebrates.
These little guys are called blue death-feigning beetles, and they are interesting because when they get startled, they actually freeze up and faint and act dead, so that way, hopefully, predators won't eat them. This is a giant African millipede. Millipedes and centipedes come in varieties of shapes and sizes, but they are all well known for having lots and lots of feet. You can see this millipede is moving multiple feet at one time, and the word pede is Latin for feet, and milli stands for thousand. So these guys are named for having thousands of feet. A really common creepy crawly that we see all across the United States, pretty much all across North America, are our black widows. And so we actually have 2 black widows here with us. We have Scarlett and Natasha, and they live here at the zoo. And the reason we have them is to help teach people about, again, how important some of these animals that we have labeled as creepy crawlies, how important they actually are to our health even. So black widows are really good at catching insects that might be even more dangerous to us, like mosquitoes. They do a tremendous job eating mosquitoes and other bugs that maybe we don't want around, don't want destroying our food, different things like that. But because of maybe how many legs they have and the color that they have and that big bright red like hourglass shape on the outside and the name Black Widow, we have just decided that we really don't like black widows. But if we were to get bit, unless we already had some other underlying issues, we actually probably wouldn't die from a black widow bite. It might get infected, it might hurt a little bit, so it's still probably not great. They're definitely venomous animals, but unlike what most people think that we would absolutely within seconds die from a black widow bite, we actually wouldn't. So they're really important to have around, and I can tell you too that I have worked with many creepy crawlies over the years, and usually their last resort is to bite. They don't want to bite humans. We're way bigger than they are. And so biting a human actually takes a lot of energy for that animal. So they're probably going to get away and try to live their own life far away from us as best they can before they would ever think about harming us. So next time you see a black widow or any of the creepy crawlies we've talked about today, just think, maybe if I give them their space, they'll give me my space, and we can both just live peaceful, happy lives.
Hello, my name is Kevin and I'm a keeper here at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and today I have 2 of our Asian forest scorpions with me. So our first one that we have on the table right here is Dumpling, and he is our male scorpion. And then in the outreach container that we used to take them to different areas around the zoo or to people's houses or anywhere where we may have a zoo meal program is Donut, our female. So one way that you can tell the difference between the two is if you look right here at the width of the pinchers. Dumpling here has a lot bigger pinchers, and he's our boy, compared to Donuts right here, our female. They're a little bit more narrow. Also, just as an individual, looking at Donuts, she's bigger around than Dumpling is. So if you look at like the distance, like kind of like lightish grayish black on her, she's bigger than, looking right here, the whitish grayish right here on Dumpling. So they're both about the same age. They're about 3 years old, and what's cool about this species of scorpion is that they're pretty long-lived. So scorpions in general will only live to be about 1 to 2 years old on average, but this species can live anywhere from 5 to 7, and some Asian forest scorpions can get even more than that, into like the 9 to 10 year range. So being an arachnid, that's a pretty cool word. That means that they're in the big family of spiders, essentially. So if we can count their legs, we can see how many legs they have. How many spider legs do you think spiders usually have? So we have 1, 2, 3. The 4th one's kind of hidden underneath the claw right there. 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are the 8 scorpion legs. But those 2 big claws, or pinchers, they kind of goes back and forth on what people call them. They're actually not a leg. They're this big fun word called a pedipalp. And so spiders have those too, and that's what helps them bring their food into their mouth. Where for scorpions, theirs are a lot bigger, and they can use them to help catch their prey. So that's all what their legs are, is basically good hands and helpers, because they don't have the hands like me and you have. Lots of animals have cool adaptations which is a big word for all the things that help them survive. So we already talked about how they have the claws. That's an awesome adaptation that scorpions have. But they have a more well-known one, and that's their stinger. So their stinger is found right up here, and they don't use their stinger unless if they're threatened. So right now, we're hanging out. He doesn't see me as a threat to hurt him. I don't see him as a threat to hurt me, so we're good here. When you get stung by a scorpion, it's usually because you surprise them or you're not leaving them alone and they're just defending themselves, because we are really, really big compared to a scorpion. We're bigger than the size of an elephant is to us. So they may want to protect themselves, and so they have toxins in that stinger that they use, and so it kind of goes into your skin, injects you with that toxin, which is going to hurt, and then that way they can run away and they can hide while it gets us. So it's found just in the top of their stinger right there, and their stinger is attached to them. So there's no way to remove a stinger or anything like that from a scorpion. They always have to have it on them or else they can die. So you don't ever want to touch them. You don't ever want to try to mess with any of their stingers. And like him right here, he's going to leave us alone because he's used to us and he knows that we're not going to leave him any harm. So if you keep your distance, scorpions aren't scary and there's nothing that they can do to really hurt you if you keep your distance away from them.
It was so fun learning about invertebrates, but now we're gonna move on to another animal that gets a bad rap, our slimy friends. Our last friend that we just saw eating was Java, our white tree frog, and this here is Marge. Marge is our cane toad, and as you can see, she is pretty big. Cane toads can get to be about 10 inches long, and the females are generally larger than the males. These guys also produce lots and lots of babies, so they happen to actually be an invasive species because they have toxins that they produce from their bodies that makes it hard for other things to eat them, especially because they are so big as well. So many amphibians, but toads and newts in particular, will release toxins from their already slimy bodies, which is kind of why they get the reputation of being a creepy crawly. Did you know that not all poison dart frogs are poisonous? In the wild, they will eat mites and other invertebrates that have the toxins in them, but at the zoo, they don't eat those, so they actually aren't toxic. newts and salamanders. These guys right here are emperor newts. So emperor newts are really interesting, just like I talked about earlier with the cane toad. These guys also do produce toxins out of their bodies to help protect them from predators. So those orange dots along the side of their body is where those toxins come out of. This is a tiger salamander, and interestingly enough, tiger salamanders are actually the state amphibian of Colorado and a couple of other states here in the Rocky Mountain West. This amphibian usually spends a lot of its time hiding under logs or down in the dirt. Again, amphibians breathe through their skin, so it's really important for them to keep their bodies nice and wet. So we want to make sure if we are out hiking or we come across a frog or a toad or a salamander that we just want to leave them alone, because we could take some of that moisture out of their skin and then that would make it hard for them to breathe. I'm now going to turn it over to my friend Stacy, and she's going to talk to you guys about axolotls.
Can you guys see this animal here? They're a little bit funny looking. Here's another one. So they look like salamanders, right? They're called axolotls. So axolotls are a very special kind of salamander. They're still an amphibian. They're found in Mexico, which is really cool. So these guys, unlike newts and salamanders, they can't go out of the water. So they were hatched in the water. They turned into tadpoles. They grew legs, but then they never went on land. So if you look at this guy, I've got a little bit of glare here. If we look at this guy, see all those things sticking out of him? Those are gills, just like a fish has gills. So this axolotl, this type of amphibian, actually has gills for his whole life. So we saw in the teeny tiny little tadpoles, if you looked closely, they had gills too, just like an axolotl. And every time he moves them, that's him taking a breath. So you see him taking a breath there. So those little itty bitty tadpoles, they had gills too. But as they grow up, do you remember, did the emperor newts, did they have gills? No, they didn't. The adults didn't. So when they're babies, they have those gills on the outside to help them breathe while they're in water. So some amphibians, like axolotls, they never lose those gills. But the grown-up newts, as they got bigger and bigger, those gills went away. Just like a frog might lose its tail, or a toad might lose its tail when it's a tadpole, they lose their gills. But axolotls keep them forever, even though they're grown-ups.
Now we're going to talk about my favorite animal of all time, and that is snakes. Now, snakes end up in this same category of creepy crawly because although they don't have thousands of feet or lots of legs like the animals that we met earlier, they don't have any legs. And for some reason, a lot of people don't really like that. Snakes can do a lot of cool things that other animals can't do. Take Jorge here, for instance. Jorge is eating his food without the help of arms or hands. He's only using his mouth. So snakes can open their mouth 3 times the size of their head to eat their food. snakes are also known for their ability to slither. And this animal we can tell is slithering. But interestingly enough, Houdini here is actually a lizard. So he doesn't have legs either, but he has ears, a lateral line, and eyelids. All things that snakes don't have. Our last animal that we are going to meet today is Poe the raven. And ravens, although maybe not as creepy crawly as some of the other animals that we have seen, also tend to be misrepresented. Just like black cats, a lot of people think that if they see a raven pass by them, that their bad luck might be coming their way or something like that. And these animals are actually really, really intelligent. So you can see Poe here. She figured out that puzzle feeder really quickly and now is just enjoying her treat that she worked so hard for. And then in order to get more treats, she actually has to clean up her entire mess. So that is a behavior that we worked with her because we know just how intelligent ravens are. And this same thing happens out in the wild too. These guys will use tools and figure out how to use tools to get to the treats and to the food that they actually really, really want. So if a raven does cross your path, I wouldn't personally take it as a sign of bad luck. I would maybe take it as a good omen because smart creatures probably want to be around other smart creatures. So that would make me feel pretty good if I crossed paths with a raven. For joining us on our tour today. We hope you had lots of fun exploring the zoo. and learning all about animals. We hope that you had a lot of fun and that you have a good rest of your day.